Seoul shimmered under a sky painted with twilight hues, the city's skyline a jagged crown of glass and steel where the rich lived above the clouds and the rest scrambled below. In the heart of Gangnam, where luxury cars purred like panthers and designer boutiques lined every corner, power wasn't just earned, it was inherited, polished, and passed down like a sacred heirloom. And at the top of that gilded world stood Lee Jun-ho, the youngest chairman of the Jaiwa Group, a chaebol empire built on pharmaceuticals, real estate, and decades of carefully curated silence. At 38, Jun-ho was everything the Korean elite admired, impeccably dressed, coldly efficient, and devastatingly handsome in a way that made headlines without his permission. His jawline could cut glass, his eyes, dark and unreadable, could silence a boardroom with a glance. Women whispered his name like a prayer, men studied his moves like chess grandmasters. But behind the tailored suits and the billion-won investments, Jun-ho carried a quiet emptiness. He had everything, and yet he had nothing that felt real. His marriage to Min-ji, the daughter of a rival conglomerate, had been arranged when they were both 22. It was a merger more than a union, a strategic alliance sealed with a banquet at the Shilla Hotel and a front-page photo in Chosun-ilbo. For 10 years, they played their roles, Jun-ho the devoted husband, Min-ji the elegant socialite. They attended galas, hosted charity events, and smiled for the cameras. But behind closed doors, their relationship was a performance. They lived in separate wings of their mansion in Cheongdam-dong, spoke in polite sentences, and never touched unless the paparazzi were near. Jun-ho didn't love her. And he was certain she didn't love him either. Then came the scandal. It started with a photograph. A grainy, late-night snapshot taken outside a private karaoke bar in Itaewon. The image showed Min-ji, dressed in a sleek black dress, laughing with a man who was not her husband. Not just any man, a French-Korean artist named Julien Moreau, known for his provocative installations and rumored affairs with wealthy married women. The photos circulated online within hours, spreading like wildfire across Naver and social media. By morning, it was on every news channel. Chairman Lee's wife caught in midnight tryst, the headlines screamed. Jun-ho saw it while sipping espresso in his office on the 63rd floor of the Jaiwa Tower. His assistant handed him a tablet with trembling hands. He stared at the image, his expression unchanged. No anger. No shock. Just a slow, quiet unraveling inside. He didn't confront her that day. Or the next. He waited. 3 days later, he called her to his office. They met in the private conference room, all glass and silence. Min-ji arrived in a cream-colored coat, her makeup flawless, her posture regal. She didn't sit until he did. "You knew, didn't you?" she asked, her voice steady. "I suspected," he replied. "But I needed proof. And now you have it." "Now I do." She exhaled, almost relieved. "Then why haven't you thrown me out? Why haven't you ruined him?" "Because I don't care about him," Jun-ho said, his voice low. "I care about why you did it." Min-ji looked away, toward the city below. "Because you stopped seeing me. Because I felt like a mannequin in your perfect life. Because I wanted to feel something real, even if it was wrong." Jun-ho didn't respond. He believed her. He had stopped seeing her years ago. He had stopped seeing everyone. But the scandal wouldn't die. The media feasted on it. Tabloids speculated about divorce, about inheritance battles, about the future of the Jaiwa Group. Investors grew nervous. The board called emergency meetings. And then, just as the storm seemed to peak, another bomb dropped. A video surfaced. Not of Min-ji. Of Jun-ho. It was a clip from a closed-door charity gala, filmed secretly from a balcony above. In it, Jun-ho stood alone on a terrace, lit by moonlight. A woman approached him, tall, graceful, with deep brown eyes and hair tied in a loose bun. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing like the glittering gowns of the other guests. They spoke in hushed tones. Then, for just 3 seconds, he touched her hand. A gesture so small, so fleeting, it could have been accidental. But the internet exploded. Who is she? Who is the mystery woman? Her name was Han Soo-yeon. And she wasn't just a guest. She was the head of Jiwa's new sustainability division, a brilliant environmental scientist recruited from Stanford. At 33, she had already published groundbreaking research on green urban development and had been handpicked by Junho himself. She was smart, principled, and refreshingly unimpressed by wealth. She wore glasses instead of designer sunglasses, drank barley tea instead of champagne, and once told Junho that his carbon footprint was unforgivable. He had been drawn to her from the start. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, in a quiet, intelligent way, but because she challenged him. In meetings, she questioned his decisions. In emails, she pushed back with facts and conviction. She didn't flatter him. She didn't fear him. And slowly, without either of them realizing it, something shifted. It began with late-night emails. Then coffee in the office kitchen. Then a shared umbrella during a sudden downpour. A conversation that lasted 2 hours instead of 10 minutes. A glance held a second too long. The hand touch on the terrace was the first and only physical contact they'd ever had. But to the world, it was proof of an affair. The headlines turned on Junho. Hypocrite Chaebol chairman accused of double standards. While his wife cheats, he flirts with employee. The board demanded answers. His mother, the matriarch of the Lee family, summoned him to the ancestral home in Buckshin. You are making us a laughingstock, she said, her voice like ice. Do you want to destroy everything your grandfather built? I didn't leak the video, Junho replied calmly. I didn't even know it existed. That doesn't matter. Perception is everything. You must end this. Now. End what? He asked. There's nothing to end. Don't lie to me, she snapped. I see the way you look at her. I've seen the reports. You've moved her office closer to yours. You cancelled 3 overseas trips just to attend her presentations. You are obsessed. I'm not obsessed, he said. I'm awake. His mother stared at him, stunned. For the first time in years, her son wasn't obeying. He was thinking. Feeling. That night, Junho didn't go home. He drove to Soo-yeon's apartment in Songbukdong, a quiet neighborhood tucked between hills and old hanok houses. He stood outside her building, unsure why he was there. He rang the bell. She opened the door in sweatpants and a faded university hoodie, her glasses slightly crooked, a book in her hand. When she saw him, her eyes widened. Chairman Lee? What are you doing here? I had to see you, he said. Not as your boss. As me? Soo-yeon hesitated. Then stepped aside. They sat on her small balcony, drinking green tea from chipped mugs. The city glowed below, a sea of light and secrets. I didn't know about the video, she said quietly. I didn't want this. Neither did I, he admitted. But I won't apologize for talking to you. For listening to you. For finally feeling like I'm not just a machine. You're not a machine, Soo-yeon said. You're a man who's been carrying too much for too long. He looked at her, really looked. And for the first time in years he felt seen. The next morning, Junho did something no Chaebol chairman had ever done. He held a live press conference. No handlers. No scripts. Just him, standing at a podium in a simple black suit, the Jiwa logo behind him. Good morning, he began. I am here not to deny the rumors, but to clarify the truth. He spoke for 12 minutes. He confirmed that his marriage was over. That Minji and he had agreed to separate, amicably. That there would be no public battle, no blame game. That she was free to live her life. Then he paused. As for the video, yes, I was on that terrace. Yes, I spoke to Han Soo-yeon. But not as a lover. As someone who reminded me that I am still human. That beneath the title, the money, the expectations, I am a man who deserves honesty. Who deserves to choose his own path. The room was silent. I am not resigning, he continued. I am not stepping down. But I am changing. Jiwa Group will no longer prioritize profit over people. We will invest in green energy, in affordable housing, in mental health programs. Because real power isn't control. It's responsibility. And as for my personal life, that is mine to live. Not for the media. Not for tradition. For me. He stepped back, nodded, and walked away. The internet erupted. Some called him brave. Others called him reckless. But millions watched the video. Shared it. Talked about it. And Soo-yeon watched it from her apartment, tears in her eyes. Days passed. The storm didn't calm, it transformed. Junho was no longer just a businessman. He was a symbol. Of change. Of courage. And then, one rainy afternoon, Soo-yeon received a letter. Not an email. A real letter, handwritten on thick paper, delivered by hand. It read, "Dear Soo-yeon, I don't know if I deserve you. But I know I want to try. Not as Chairman Lee. Not as a man with a fortune. Just as Junho. The man who finally learned to feel. If you're willing, I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere small. Somewhere real. No cameras. No titles. Just us. And if you say no, I'll understand. But if you say yes, I promise to spend the rest of my life earning your trust. Junho." She read it 3 times. Then she picked up her phone and texted him. "There's a little tofu stew place near Gyeongbokgung. I'll meet you there. 7 p.m. And wear something normal. No suits." He laughed when he read it. A real laugh, loud and free. That night, they sat at a tiny table in a crowded alley restaurant, steam rising from their bowls, rain tapping on the roof. They talked for hours, about books, about childhoods, about dreams they'd buried under duty. And when he walked her home, he didn't take her hand. But she did. And as they stood under her doorway, the city humming around them, he looked at her and said softly, "I've spent my life building walls. You were the first crack in them." She smiled. And kissed him. It was gentle. Brief. But it carried the weight of everything they had been through, the scandal, the lies, the loneliness, the courage to be real. The tabloids found out, of course. Another photo. Another headline. "Chairman Lee's new love, from scandal to soulmate?" But this time, the public didn't sneer. They rooted for them. Because sometimes, love doesn't begin with a fairy tale. Sometimes it begins with a scandal. And sometimes, the most broken paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Junho still runs Jaiwa Group. But now, Soo-yeon sits on the board. They live in a modest apartment near Seorei village, not far from the Han River. They walk their dog, a rescue Jindo, every morning. They argue about climate policy and binge-watch K-dramas on weekends. And when people ask how they met, Junho smiles and says, "We were brought together by a scandal." And Soo-yeon adds, "But we stayed together because of truth." Because in a world that values perfection, sometimes the most radical act is to be imperfectly, honestly, beautifully human. And that is the real scandal.